For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, making a brand new video for you today. And today is my part 4 of my 6-part series going through my Guilty Pleasures non-metal edition specifically. So these are artists and bands that are not in the metal genre whatsoever. I do own them on CD, which is why I have them with me. The only way I'll prove I actually listen to them. There's definitely a few artists I like here and there, single songs by the artist. I essentially just throw it on a Spotify. I'm not going to go out of my way to buy the music. But if I happen to be at a thrift store, which is where I've bought most of these, as you know, watching any of the previous videos, they're on sale for $1 or $2, or maybe sometimes they're for $1 and then it's a half off sale with them. Grab them for 50 cents. It's kind of hard not to. So I do genuinely enjoy this music. Some of it I enjoy greatest hit style. Some of the older artists I like. A couple of songs by them, usually the radio hits. And then there's a few artists I've shown off here and there, and I'm sure some will be in this pile because I don't remember, where I like just a song or two. And it just so happens that the album that was available has that 1 or 2 songs on it. So I'm like, hey, for $1, I'll pick it up. That's fine. So these are some of those bands, and I would really be curious as a group of people who watch this channel to, enjoy hearing about metal music and me going through a bunch of non-metal, what you like in this list. I would be really curious because, again, that's probably where we're going to differentiate the most. A lot of people aren't going to like the Lamb of Gods and the new metals and the metalcore and stuff like that. That's fine. I did see some people who were like, yeah, actually did listen to some of that stuff, either did or still do, and that's cool. But of course, this is where we're probably going to differentiate the most. So that's why I'm the most curious to see what people watching this think of some of these artists, and if you also like some of them too. So go through this list here. First one is a greatest hits released by Sir Elton John. I am a big fan of this era of music, whatever you want to call this, pop rock, I guess. I guess 70s and 80s, stuff like Phil Collins, Genesis later on, Peter Gabriel, Elton John, Billy Joel, that kind of stuff, whatever that's called. I enjoy a lot of it, so naturally, greatest hits CD, perfect for me. Grab it for like $1 or $2. It's got a bunch of songs I'm familiar with because I grew up with this stuff, and then I'll have to go and get some of the individual CDs. I mean, songs that most people who aren't even fans of this kind of music are probably heard at least once or twice on the radio, whether or not you like it. Songs like Honky. No, I don't know that one. Maybe I do. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I mean, it's probably a very good chance you've heard it. Crocodile Rock, Candle in the Wind, Rocket Man. I mean, it's got to be pretty surprising if you don't know. I mean, granted, if you don't know songs like Candle in the Wind are about Marilyn Monroe, aka Norma Jean, maybe it makes sense. You don't know that, which I kind of found out later. It's not like I just knew it off the top of my head or anything, but I'm sure you've heard it. I mean, Benny and the Jets, chances are you've heard it. Whether or not you like it, that's a whole different story. Again, people listening to just extreme metal, especially coming off of that black metal group of videos I just did. If you're listening to Niflheim and Blasphemy, maybe you don't listen to Elton John, but there are people like that out there, like myself, and I'll fully admit it because I just showed you. So I think that's what makes the world a more interesting place. If you have that dichotomy of people, so that's why I'm doing this video. I want to see what you guys think of some of these releases I've picked up. Next one is definitely a different one from most of the releases that I'm showing the artists. It's also a greatest hits. This might be the oldest artist I have on here. I'm not sure. I know there's this artist called Del Shannon from the late 50s, kind of like the Elvis era. I do like a few of his songs, like the song Runaway and Follow the Sun. I don't think I have a compilation CD by him. I don't even know if I have like a 7-inch or anything, but that's probably the oldest artist I actually like a few things by. But in CD format, and especially on the list I have here, this might be the oldest artist I have. I'm not 100% sure because this only has the repress date. It doesn't have the original, but that is the group called The Ventures. So this was back in the day when every band was called The something. The Kinks, The Turtles, The Ventures, The Beatles, The Rolling Stones. I think they're called The Rolling Stones. The Hollies. A lot of bands like that, most of which I do enjoy, some of which are in this pile here. But I really enjoy the song Walk, Don't Run. That's probably my favorite song. And you may not think you know who this band is because, again, older band, maybe you don't think you know because it's not something you necessarily seek out or you wouldn't recognize it by the name. But the song like Hawaii Five-0, you probably know. You've probably heard it. Or Walk Don't Run. And then they also do the song, I think it's on here. Kind of surprised. Maybe it's not. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm almost positive they do the song Tequila. And anyone who was around in the 80s who grew up with Pee Wee Herman, they know that song from the movie. And they also do a song called Diamond Head, which I'm not sure if the band Diamond Head took their name from it, which would be pretty interesting because that's an interesting metal connection there. Again, I'm not sure. Maybe they did, but imagine it's very possible. Maybe so some of you people who are older than me who know the band Diamond Head, maybe they took their name from this song, and then as we probably know, I hope you know, maybe you know. So if you know the No Life to the Leather 82 demo by Metallica, that's when James was trying to sing like Diamond Head, which I'm not really a fan of. I don't really like that release. So that's kind of an interesting connection. So maybe I actually just made an accidental connection to metal here. I'm not sure if I did, but I love this. And again, first song, Walk Don't Run. If you don't know it and you're open-minded, go check it out. I'd be curious to see what you think of the song. And it's an instrumental too. So it's like I think they're from the 60s, but it's an instrumental song. So I'd be curious to see what you think. All right, next, again, kind of going a little bit random here, although I think, honestly, the last 3 or 4 kind of feel like they could group together a little bit. This is a band very similar to Ace of Base. This is an artist you're all most likely familiar, again, with, maybe not by name, but you probably know their most popular song because it was an earworm that was almost impossible to ignore in the late 90s. I believe this was 98 or 99. That is the Italian group Eiffel 65. And for those of you who have no idea who this is, and you're wondering what is that earworm, well, it's the song Blue. So yes, this is that band, if you're wondering. I like a lot of their songs, and actually there's a song on their album I don't own that's in Italian, and it's called... it's something, I don't know, it's called Something About a Song. It's literally a song about a song, but definitely my favorite. But they have a few other songs on here maybe people have heard of, I don't know. Too Much of Heaven, that's a good one. I like that one. Move Your Body. My Counsel, that song sucks, but it's literally a song about PlayStation 1 games. It's a little on the nose, probably just pure advertising, but Another Race, I love that song. And then they have a Blue extended mix. So yeah, if you were like, who was that annoying ass band in the late 90s with that weird CGI music video that I couldn't escape, and that really annoying, Blue song, and everyone thought they were saying if I was green I would die. Who the hell was that band, and why do I even want to be reminded of it? Well, if you're that person, I'm sorry I just reminded you, but yes, it's the Italian group called Eiffel 65. So, and that is the album called Europop. They also have the album Contact, which I do not think I own, and then they have at least one more, which has that song I was telling you about in Italian. And since I don't speak Italian, I don't remember the name of the song, but that's that. So we are getting down to some interesting things here. These are definitely going to be bands that if you were purely into metal, just a tough guy your whole life, and only listen to metal, I'm pretty sure you picked on the kids who listen to these albums. So just be forewarned. And this isn't even my favorite by the band. I think I just owned it because I just bought it because I found it at, guess what, thrift store, go figure. But my favorite song by the band is on a different Color album. But Metallica is not the only album, or not the only band to name their albums. Well, of course, it kind of got named afterwards. It's really the self-titled, but by the color of their albums, and that is the band Weezer. So this is their Blue album, I guess. This has songs, My Name is Jonas. That's a pretty good one. Buddy Holly, Say It Ain't So, Holiday, and the song that I guess maybe people would be most familiar with, possibly, is the Sweater Song, also known as Undone. So you probably heard that. I've occasionally heard that in between songs, so a little story time. I'm pretty sure this was accurate, but pretty sure this was 2019 Summer Slaughter Tour in Providence, Rhode Island. And some clubs love to put music that doesn't match the style of the music playing in between bands, which some people complain about, and I kind of understand why. It is a little weird to hear like some club hits in between bands playing, and then occasionally you'll get the guy who just throws on their Spotify hard rock, heavy metal playlist, and it'll be, Man of the Silver Mountain or Bark at the Moon or something in between some freaking extreme bands. It's like Malignancy just played, and Deicide's about to play next, and they're playing Man on the Silver Mountain. It's like, okay, whatever, fine. But I guess even less so would be a band like Weezer. But I think it was this case that in between bands, that song came on, so the Sweater Song. And for those of you who don't know, it's just kind of a bunch of people at a party, like talking in the background of the song at first, and then it kicks into the music. And it's just a very goofy song. I mean, Weezer's just kind of a goofy band anyways, even if you're not a fan. You're like, I've never heard of them in my life. Again, a lot of these artists you've probably heard a song or two by, you just don't know. And then I mentioned it, and you're like, oh, yeah, shit, it was that band. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But this is that band that you've probably heard the name, especially if you're a little bit older than me. You're like, who the hell are they? And then songs like Buddy Holly or Beverly Hills is another one you probably heard. You had no idea it was them. But that song was on the background. And my point was, even though it was a group of people there to see metal, everyone started singing along to it. So I thought that was kind of cool. It's sort of like being in the middle of Boston, maybe being just coming out of even the most intense death metal or war metal concert or whatever. And then after all the songs are done playing, they start playing like Sweet Caroline. People are probably going to start singing along just because it's one of those songs. So I feel like the Sweater Song is kind of like that, whether or not you like or even know who Weezer are. Kind of falls into that category. Next is another band I really enjoy, and it's kind of funny now that I think about it, because a lot of these CDs have one of those songs that you're just like, you don't know anything else by the band, you may not even know the name, but you know that one song. You're like, where do I know that from? You don't realize maybe the name of the song, the name of the band, but this might be one, and I have to use age groups just because some people grew up with different things. That's the only reason I'm categorizing, talking about older people, people my age, people younger, because some things just weren't around for different generations. But people my age, again, people born in the early 90s who grew up with the Disney Channel, will specifically know this band, and I will tell you where you know it from. But this is another band that falls under the ska style of music. I love this band. They're awesome. So speaking of Boston, this is the Mighty Mighty Bosstones with the album Let's Face It. And I love this. This one definitely goes on repeat when I can. Songs like The Rascal King and Royal Oil, singing about the sheiks and other folks that live in the Middle East and have lots and lots of oil. But the song people my age would know off this album would be The Impression That I Get. So maybe off the name, the band, you don't know what it is. If you grew up with Disney Channel original movies with Xena and Brink and Luck of the Irish, if any of that rings a bell to you and you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and play even the first 3 seconds of the song, The Impression That I Get by the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, and you're going to be like, holy shit, I recognize that. I knew that sounds so familiar. So for those of you who don't know, back in, I guess, like the late 90s, there were what was called Disney Channel original movies. So obviously Disney, giant conglomerate, made shows kind of for tweens, I guess, live action shows. And they were just relegated to that channel specifically because a lot of those, it seems like for whatever reason, you can't really find on DVD. Disney likes to lock stuff in what they call their vault. I'm not sure if this counts, but basically this was an era specifically early, I think maybe ending in the early 2000s, perhaps. I mean, I don't even know when the CD came out. I think maybe originally in the late 90s. So, yeah, 97. So probably something from like 98 to like 2004, 2005. But on the Disney Channel, they would play movies, and that was the soundtrack. I don't think they ever used any of the lyrics or vocals or anything, but anyone who plays that will immediately like get sent back to that era. So I find that kind of interesting because, of course, I didn't know that then, but then come to find out, listening later on, I enjoy their music. I actually have 2 or 3 of their albums, but I only chose one, and it was like, oh, they chose that. So that's kind of cool. So little fun fact for you. And last 2 here are definitely bands, as I mentioned, with Weezer. If you grew up just the total metal badass your whole life, especially in the era where these actually came out. So obviously, if you grew up before this, then you would know about it. But the kids who listen to this kind of music, you would probably try to beat those kids up or not talk to them. So that's kind of why this definitely falls in the guilty pleasures. But again, I don't give a crap if you like it or not. I do. I enjoy these artists. One of them here is the band Sum 41. So for those of you who don't know who they are, this falls in the similar category to kind of like a Green Day. So If you don't like Green Day, you find that kind of stuff deplorable, again, fine. You're probably not going to like them either. But again, this was the era I grew up in. This is some of the first alternative type of music that I heard. I enjoyed it. I've seen them live a few times. I like most of their music. Can't really say much more. So it's sort of like that pop punk, I guess. So in the similar vein of like, as you would call it, the super deplorable shit, like Blink-182, I think a little bit later than them, SR-71, and a few other bands, including the next one and other bands I will show in the next few videos. But I like it. I'm unapologetic about it, and I'd be curious to see if anyone actually likes them as well. So maybe it was just a phase in middle school or something, which makes sense. And then you grew out of it and got into the more extreme stuff. That makes sense too. You could even say that this stuff is kind of a gateway. So the pop punk is a gateway to hard rock, which is a gateway to heavy metal, which is a gateway to extreme metal. There's no one right way about it. So just be curious to see what you all think of those bands. And last but not least is a band that falls into that category as well, and that is the band Zebrahead. I had first heard their song Check on a Tony Hawk game, I believe Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. It's basically like if nu metal was pop punk, which I know are some really toxic words to a lot of people, but again, just being honest, it was sort of like kind of like a rap punk, which again really is super toxic words, but that's fine. Again, is what it is. For whatever reason, I enjoyed it, but I didn't like it that much. And then I heard their later stuff, and it was more in the vein of like the pop punks. I mean, again, your Simple Plans and what else? Just stuff like that. So it was just the era. It was that early 2000s style music, and for whatever reason, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed a few more of their releases. So it is what it is, man. It's not going to be blasphemy. It's not going to be regurgitation. It's not going to be Last Days of Humanity. It is what it is, and if you don't like it, that's fine too, but I enjoy it. So let me know in the comment section what of the stuff I did show you all enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.